So, an important question. What do you think causes the onset, the sensations of discomfort whilst holding the breath? No? Do you think that once your breath hold starts getting longer and longer, the sensations of discomfort can be because you are running out of oxygen or because CO2 levels are getting too high? There is a high chance that once discomfort starts to appear, the sensations that you feel are some of the following. You feel either warm sensations or pressure around the chest area. You feel the need to swallow, pass saliva. It's very easy to feel your pulse, your heartbeats. And of course, if you hold your breath for long enough, eventually experience contractions of the breathing muscles. So do you think this is due to low oxygen or high levels of carbon dioxide? Rather than me giving you the answer, we're going to do a little test. So over here, I have a pulse oximeter. Simple device. You can buy it online or like some electronic stores that measures saturation of oxygen in the blood and heartbeats per minute. Okay, in this case, the most interesting number for us is going to be the saturation of oxygen in the blood. So I've switched mine on. Okay, I'm going to wait a few seconds for the device to start reading. Eventually numbers appear, and right now I have a saturation of oxygen of 98%. To give you an idea, an average human being at rest, a healthy human being at rest, will have a saturation of oxygen at rest ranging from 97 to 99%. Okay, there is no need to breathe in a special way to be saturated. All you need to do is just have your normal breath rate, and if you're healthy, your saturation will be where your body wants it. Okay, so I am starting my breath hold with a 98% oxygen saturation. If you have a pulse oximeter, of course, try it on, and together we're going to do a third breath hold. Again, putting in practice all the techniques used during our last breath hold journey. Relaxation, phrase, etc. To the count of 3, we're going to take a deep inhalation together and start holding the breath a third time. After the breath hold, you're going to take a look at the pulse oximeter and see what the numbers are saying. All right? I don't want you looking at the screen during the breath hold. This will distract you and not allow you to focus on the breath hold journey. So during the breath hold journey, during your breath hold, just pay attention to the actual breath hold, the process happening in here. And after a breath hold, finally, you're going to take a quick look at the screen to see what the numbers are up to. Deal? So without more to say, 3, 2, 1, take a deep breath in. And try to hold until you feel at least moderate to intense discomfort. So, what happened? Well, of course, you practice your breath hold journey one more time, which is great. But in this case, our interest was in paying attention to what happened to oxygen levels whilst we were holding our breath. So, what did the numbers tell you? My guess is you decided to breathe again while your oxygen saturation was around the probably maybe even high 90s, low 90s, and in few cases maybe some of you were able to hold the breath until you enter the 80s. Okay, so of course some of you could have noticed a drop in oxygen levels, and some of you might be wondering, Augusto, there was a slight drop in oxygen, so I think the sensations of discomfort are due to drop in oxygen. In some other cases, some of you could have decided to breathe again whilst your oxygen levels were still in the mid 90s or even high 90s. So let's clarify what oxygen levels mean. Like mentioned a few minutes ago, a healthy human being at rest will have a high oxygen saturation, 97 to 99. So a smoker, someone with a respiratory infection or a lung condition could still be, let's say, alive and okay, not peak performance, but still being able to cover, like the basic day's needs. Could have an oxygen saturation of low 90s, even high 80s. Not ideal, but it could happen. But it's not until the body enters the low 80s that the scenario would consider actual, low oxygen or hypoxia. It's starting to appear. At some point in the 80s, 70s, once the body starts to notice low levels of oxygen, the body is not going to make you feel anything, but rather start taking instinctual reactions to start preserving the remaining oxygen for the very vital parts. This the body is going to do instinctually. It's not going to ask you permission, it's not going to onset a particular alarm. Somewhere between 70s and 60s, the body's, let's say, oxygen preserving mechanisms are going to intensify even more, and also some bodily functions are going to start shutting down with this. And it's not until, like, once shifting into the 60s, 50s, that oxygen levels actually will encourage the body to shut off. This doesn't mean you are experiencing, let's say, brain damage yet. What it means is the body is actually making you fall asleep or making you black out, which is the most extreme way of preserving the remaining oxygen. This happens somewhere between the 60s and 50s, depending on the individual's tolerance to low oxygen. All right? Some anecdotes to complement this. Years ago, I had in class a mountain guide, and he mentioned that every evening whilst climbing a high mountain with clients, they will check their oxygen levels. If clients were in the 90s, they carry on climbing up. If clients were in the 80s, they'll continue climbing up. But when clients started to enter low 80s into 70s, as a prevention, they would turn around and head down the mountain. Also, over a year ago, I watched a documentary on Everest, and they were evacuating, let's say in this case, a patient. Initially a climber that eventually became a patient or victim of a lung condition, pulmonary edema. So his oxygen levels were starting to become very, very low. In this case, they were actually around the 60s, mid-60s. The guy was still conscious, not completely, but he was still being able to speak very slowly. He was actually being able to walk without much balance, but he was still alive and being able to let's say, to move, to take actions, very basic actions. The body hadn't shut off completely. So point here is oxygen levels in the 90s, in the 80s are still on the high side. Meaning, if you felt a moderate to intense urge to breathe and your oxygen levels were still on that side, that's a clear proof that the sensations of discomfort are not due to low levels of oxygen, but are caused by rising levels of carbon dioxide. Interesting fact to be aware of.